Hello everyone, it's Chris here, welcome and Happy New Year. I think this video, even though it's made in June of 2025, it probably will not be out until the beginning of January 2026. I'm trying to get the videos done because, man, I'm busy. I've got other things to do. We need to open the guest house here in Phuket, as well as the vegan restaurants. And even if we don't do that, we might have to travel a bit. I know I want to go to Kataburi or someplace where the bridge over the River Kwai took place. I want to record that for Legacy Conversations, the other channel. And since I have time now back in June, since Rebecca is still in Switzerland, man, that's why I thought let me just finish these books, do the videos on them. And as I explained in, I think, one of the last videos, is it's not that easy because once that is done and it's loaded, you also have to put in the links in the manuscripts and then you have to load them up. So it's better for me just to get done. But anyway, that's one of those things, and it's a pleasure for me to speak to you about the books. I must tell you, I don't really care if there's very few people who will ever listen to this. It doesn't matter. For me, from an author viewpoint, it's actually quite nice to do so. And thank you again for being here. So, the book I want to talk to you about today is actually not a codename book. It's a non-fiction one. It's Intelligence Briefing. That's what it's called. Now, the background to Intelligence Briefing is that right in the beginning, after the first 10 books about, I used to put in a short, I would say 10, 15, 20 pages later, short summary intelligence briefing in the front end of every book. But then when you start writing the books and they come out a new version every month, a new book, really, every 3 weeks a new book was published, you have to then go and make the changes all over because intelligence is fluid by nature. What is absolutely known to be God's honest truth today might not be tomorrow. Or it might be, but there's an evil purpose behind it. It might be that it's a false trail, deliberately placed there. I mean, the US is actually quite good at that, especially with Donald Trump. He's a liar by nature, so whatever he says, you have to take very, very carefully. Strangely enough, Adolf Hitler also said that. He said that as a man, as a human being, he will never lie. Of course, he was a Catholic. But as the Chancellor of Germany, to get more for the German state, for his people, he would tell any lie what there is. That's basically what he said. And it seems to me the president of the second beast of the Bible, that's the US of A, is doing exactly the same as we said here today. This is months ago now. We had to find out that Donald Trump was lying about his so-called negotiations with Iran about the nuclear weapons program, which they don't have, and which the US then attacked him for. And of course, they struck back, but it was all arranged. It's very interesting, these things, because the Bible says that we all sit at the same table, which means that what you're seeing is just theater, it's just bullshit. Of course, you being the Goyen, you being the lower ranking member of society, it's your children and it's you who's going to die with these games which are being played at the very highest levels. And it's fascinating when all these people bow down to the same entity and they bow down to the same, the same organizations, these secret organizations which they belong to, the Freemasons in the different formats across the world, the Knights of St. John, Knights of Malta, Knights of whatever, all Jesuit fronts, Catholic fronts. So it can change. It's not impossible that intelligence can change, but mostly if you look back, you see a pattern, and once you see that pattern, you know exactly what was going on. And it's fascinating to me, this book, because it was written about 6 years ago, Intelligence Briefing. And then you can clearly see how they were building up as hatred against Russia, which then got to the Ukraine-Russia war, which Russia, thank God, is winning hands down. And if you're one of those who think that Ukraine actually won, please wake up. Wake up. Stop watching CNN and Fox News and these places, please. Just do some research and start listening to both sides. You know, the old Audi alteram partem rule in law, and then make up your mind. And they are evil, these people. I quote a lot from a book called Rulers of Evil. If you haven't got that book, try and find it on the internet somewhere. It will really open your eyes, because you will then see how the West has become what they become. And it's a sad sight, because everything they stand for, they do the opposite. It's amazing to witness. So I decided I will write a proper book on the intelligence briefing. I will take a couple of incidents and I will just discuss them in detail. And so we came up with this book, which is almost 400 pages long. And so it's a substantial book, but it's very difficult for me also to actually summarize it for you. I have notes here. I have about 11 pages of notes. But you will understand that when you look in detail at something, you are looking at it in detail. So if you want details and you want to know how a pattern formed and how this fits together with what happened and what's still happening today, because nothing is in isolation. Everything happens with a reason. I think it was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a 53-degree Freemason. It was he who said that there is no such thing as chance in politics. Everything you see is arranged. So it's all bullshit, you know. They come up, you find the news, you're all shocked about it, or happy about it, or angry about it. And you don't realize it's just games. They're just playing games here, but they do have an objective. And the objective, of course, is satanic. It is to make sure that the earth is totally subjugated to Satan. It's the only way to explain these things. I've explained it to you before, but there is actually a higher level than strategic. Now, all of us know tactical level. I mean, all of us, most of you would have served in the army somewhere, and even if you had no rank as such, but most of you would have. You know about tactical levels. You understand a section assault, a platoon assault. You fully understand how to go into a building and take out some terrorists there or whatever you want to do. That's tactical, man. And then a strategic is why. Why do you need to go and take that base out? Or why do you need to attack that hill? Or why do you need to do this? It's a strategic plan. It's an overall plan. That's for higher ranking officers. And they are subjected, of course, to the will of the political masters, which is war is just politics by other means. That's what that famous field marshal of Germany said when Clausewitz, is it something like that? Clausewitz. I read this book actually. Do you know how many pages it is? You know, I once asked a guy who was quoting from Clausewitz, and I asked him how many pages. I'll fix that book. I had no flippant clue because he never read it. You know, it's not more than 10, 15 pages. That's it. It is a very short treatise he did on it. Treatise, how do you say that word? And also this thing with Smedley Butler, I think the US Marine Corps Commander General, was actually offered command to take over America, the US, in the 1950s by a coup d'etat. And then he came out and he ran to Congress, and there was a huge story. George Bush and George W. Bush, it was their father and grandfather who was actually behind this. Yeah. Interesting. But he got away with it. But they wanted to overthrow Roosevelt, FDR. And this Smedley Butler then wrote a book which he called War is a Racket. Again, how many pages does this book have? 10, 12, almost nothing. It's not a book. It's more like an article. But people don't know that, and then they start talking about the art of war. Now, if you look at one of my other books, I believe Masamole 26, Kotei Masamole 26, or you look at Oath of Evil, you will find out that we deal with the art of war quite substantially, because the art of war was probably not written by a Chinese general. There's really very little historical evidence of this fellow even existing. I sort of had to make him up. But everything points out that it was actually written by a Jesuit priest. Yeah. Now, it's fascinating because a Jesuit priest, and that's an organization, the Society of Jesus, who was created to destroy Protestantism. Now, in this book, um, Intelligence Briefing, you will see we touch on them quite a bit because they play a major role still in the background, and they will until the end of time. They are satanic, every one of them. Just look at Fauci, you see the satanic fruits inside him. I mean, who else would get little dark beagles, or what was it? Then tie them down and infect their ears with, with mitts, or what do you call these things which crawls around there, and just take an healthy animal, tie him down, and torture him to death. What the fuck is wrong with you scientists? You know what? I lost all respect for you people in white coats. I have no respect for you whatsoever. Because if you're capable of doing such things, for no reason, it's not that you want to find out what's, that there's some human research, there's something coming from this which is good for humans. No, nothing. You're just a bloody animal torturer. It's all you are. You're disgusting people. Absolutely disgusting. And it's funny how many of these people, they turns out to be satanic. They really not, there's nothing godliness in him or in them. There's nothing whatsoever. But we talk about that as well in this book because we do touch upon it. So let us start with a book. What happened was I took some passages from certain books and I expanded quite a lot on them, and I put them into this book. And the reason for that is when you have so many books which you've written, so many dozens, I don't know which one you will actually read. And it's virtually impossible for anybody to read all the books. I've never seen that happen before, not even the ones who's really admirers of a series. Even they would struggle to do it because these are substantially long books. And they are intensive. I mean, they're not for stupid people, I can tell you that too. Because they do mix history and fact together. It is, you have to be able to follow what's happening. There's more than just a simple story in the background. But I took, as the first chapter, I went to American Military Might, and I took the first chapter and I expanded on it. And it's called Perception in War. So I don't really want to go into it because when I spoke about military might, I spoke about it at length. So perception in war is everything, by the way. If we look at the second piece, the US these days is with utter disgust. And of course, I'm speaking from the outside, man. I'm not a US citizen. I piss on US laws and whatever. It's nothing to me. I'm not a citizen. I have no loyalty towards you whatsoever. But at one stage, I can tell you the rest of the world actually looked up to you as the beacon of hope and the beacon of freedom and the leader of a free world. We actually looked up to you. Yes, we did. And we actually admired you. And we admired what you tried to do in Vietnam or in Korea and the Second World War, which, by the way, you didn't win. Not even close. No, you don't know your history. So we look at it from a different viewpoint. And when I say these things, as I say in all the books, I'm not saying this because I hate you. I'm saying this to warn you. To warn you that there's a wave of anger coming against you, which is not only from, radical Muslim jihadi types or far right-wing people. It's from the common man on the street now. You've lost the respect which you once had. So you can still have it in certain ways over the barrel of a gun, but that's not real respect. That's fear. And it will only work with certain people in certain countries. Against a powerful country, you will not even try your lot because you'll see your asses. You ain't as good as you think you are. It's sad for me. It's sad for me to see how this mighty Protestant nation has went down to what it is today. It's the second beast of the Bible. I'm not going to explain to you again about the dragon and the first beast and the second beast and the little horn and the prophecies. If you're interested in these things, please go and get hold of Oath of Evil, the War on Protestantism. I mentioned that book in every single video. Why? Because you don't need to fear. You don't need to sit here and wondering what the hell is going on. Oh my word. Yeah, is the bomb gonna drop? Are we back? What's going on? Why are these people acting like they do? The answers are in that book, as far as I know, and the book is comes from the Bible. It's where it comes from the King James. So if you're interested in those type of things and see how these things play out, then man, you have to actually read that book, and you'll see in this one too. We refer to certain things which has absolutely to do with the occult, with the satanic New World Order, which is coming, because all of these things play together. You can see it. You see in this book how they were setting up Russia to be hated by absolutely everybody and anybody. And of course, then came the Ukraine war, and you cannot. I mean, I have good friends who's totally Ukraine orientated. They're such idiots. They sit there with little flags and Nazi symbols on their social media, and some of them are Jewish. If you stand under the Nazi flag, yeah, you have no problem with Banderas and these people who actually fought with the Nazi army, Nazi German army. You got no problem with that. Really, you don't. That is that's amazing. That's propaganda, and it's happening to you all the day, all day long. It's Hegelian dialectic, guys. Again, if you want to know what's Hegelian dialectic, go and read my books. Find out. It is very, very important. I believe it's in codename GSSP 40 where I spoke about Hegelian dialectic. Anyway, perception in war is everything, and right now the West is at the low end of the curve, and it's just going to get lower. Let me be blunt to you. Nobody likes you. Lots of people fear you. A lot of countries want nuclear weapons to protect themselves from you. And at some stage, this is going to explode in open warfare, and people are going to start dying in mass. It's really sad to witness. Then the second chapter, which is very important, because you will remember Donald Trump talking about a big, beautiful sea or ocean there around the US. That's true. There's the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic. And that makes the US fairly safe. I mean, the US actually has no plans. Their general staff have no plans on how to defend the US against a conventional assault because they think it cannot happen. And the reason why it cannot happen is one, it's quite far away. And secondly, they have the US Navy. And the US Navy is in Shite Street. It is gone. If you think that the US Navy is almighty and they just need to arrive, well, I got two words for you. What about Houthis, Yemen? Houthis, yeah, you lost. They chased you away. You had to give up. If you look behind the bullshit of Donald Trump, and they begged for peace, and what did he say before that with his terrorists, before you had to actually back down? 70 countries coming to lick his ass, things like that. Yeah, very, very presidential, I must tell you. Yeah, you like the Roman Empire in the last days, it's like sad to witness, sad to see that's the caliber of man you elected. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You lost against the Houthis. Yeah, they chased you away, man. They chased you away. You got so frightened you ran. And you were extremely lucky that Iran didn't attack your navy. That they backed down. And that's probably, as we said, yeah, it could have changed, of course, in the 6 months since I made this video. But right now it seems that Israel was begging for peace because they can't take the punishment which they like to hand out so much. They can't do it, can't take it. And also, I think Russia and China got involved because they need Iran. They need Iran for trade and, of course, to get oil to China. Which means that if Iran falls or becomes a Western-orientated state, the chances of China and Russia intervening is virtually assured. It's virtually 100%. So there's all sorts of games being played in the background. But if you think that the carrier strike group, it's not a battle group anymore, it's a strike group. Why? Because you don't have the ships to have a battle group. You don't have it. And even in the 1970s already, US admirals were saying that carrier battle group, which is much more powerful, will last 2 weeks and then it's gone. And these days, with highly accurate missiles and hypersonic missiles, your carriers will be sunk. It's not what you think it is anymore. You will need complete dominance, which you simply don't have. You lack something like 2,000 pilots in the US Air Force. You are offering those pilots, I think, $100,000 just to stay on, the ones you have, and yet they're leaving. And yet they're leaving. I wonder why. Do they feel guilty, perhaps, for dropping bombs on innocents? Probably, because your intelligence is so shite that you kill how many? We'll talk about it just now. You kill what? 96.2% of the times that the drone strike is done. Under Obama, anyway, it's much worse now. You kill the wrong person. Yeah, congratulations. You're so pathetic. That's why the world is in turmoil. Right? That's why a guy who might be a fundamentalist become a radical. If you don't know what's a fundamentalist and what's a radical, then you have to read my books, because I explain it in many videos. It's a huge difference. But your average intelligence officer in the West has no flipping clue what I just said. In fact, it is sad. I was once contacted by some people from the second beast, intelligence people, and they said to me, we don't want to butter you up. We're not trying to recruit you in any way because we know you will never work with us. That's quite right. I will never work with you. I won't work against you unless I have to, but I will never work for you. But they said if you read the average MJ novel, you know more about the situation than what they actually know to brief people. Yeah. Isn't that funny? That's amazing. Anyway, so we talk about the Roosevelt Dreadnought Doctrine, which is discussed in codename Lucy. What it comes down to is that the US Navy ain't powerful. It's old. You don't have a shipyards. In fact, China can make 258 or 80 times, not percent, times the ships you can make. In other words, for every one ship you build in the US, of shame, every one you build, one, they can build what? 250. Huh? Do you understand where this is going? That's why half your carriers can't even sail, man. Why? Because you don't have an aircraft, you don't have a manpower, and you simply can't repair these ships, and you can't keep them floating. Yeah. Fantastic, huh? It is great. That's why this Australians of shame. So now you say you chased away France who could deliver you nuclear submarines. And what do? You go to the UK because you're still bowing down. Oh, sir, please give me I want to be a sir. Please, Your Majesty. I want to be a sir. Oh. If you lost your manhood, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why is the royal family of England important to you? Explain that to me. No, don't bother. I'm not going to listen to you. Canadians are shame. Go and clap hands for Nazis in your parliament. That's what you are. Let's remember the truckers. Yeah. Let's remember how really, democratic you really are, because you ain't. None of the Western countries are. They've changed. They're changing before our eyes. It was predicted. But the fact is, when Australians chased away the French, and they sign up with the US because Uncle Sam is going to protect them. Oh, shame. And then what happens? Oh, now you can get your submarines perhaps in 20 what? 40, 48? Yeah. And it doesn't cost X billion anymore. Now it's hundreds of billions. And it will be trillions by the time you actually get to pay that bill. It's such a, you know what? Amazing. But the world is definitely lining up. And you need a powerful Navy. That's the sad thing about this. If the US does not have a powerful Navy, because it is actually a naval country, it is not an army country, then you're going to lose. Because you will find carriers, enemy carrier battle groups around your coast. Let me tell you just the last thing before I go to the next chapter. Your carrier groups. Do you know that if a carrier is sunk, and it will be, there's not enough surrounding ships around that carrier to pick up all the survivors. So they'll drown. You see, that's the difference of a battle group. There were enough ships around it to protect it, and there were enough ships that should the carrier go down that they could rescue a lot of the crew, which might survive. No, they won't. Yeah, think about that next time you're like, oh, we got the USS Nimitz of Ronald Reagan. Oh, and they're coming. Oh, you must be scared. You see China scared? Do you see them scared? Do you see the Russians scared? Even the Iranians, do you see them scared? Are they begging you? No. The only people who are scared of you are the weak ones. Did you see the Houthis? Were they scared? Or were they saying F you? And they would just keep on attacking you and attacking Israel. Yeah, think about that. Okay, then I talk in chapter 3, and this is where it's becoming very interesting, is the failure in Afghanistan. And basically, you look at your 20 years of idiocy where you achieved absolutely nothing. And you just screwed up like always. Go and read my book, Voices, War Crimes, USA. I deal with Afghanistan, a little bit there, more Iraq. But if I have to start looking at your war crimes in Afghanistan, it would be amazing. Amazing. And then, of course, you had to flee. Yeah, you ran away. Adopts. You ran away. Might be on orders. Of course, I have sympathy at the tactical level. I have deep sympathy. But you ran away. And as you ran away, of course, you massacred what? About 200 civilians at the airport after you went in a panic mode because a bomb exploded. Oh, shame. Started killing people. Yes, 11 Marines died. Sorry about it. Rest in peace. And as I always say, perhaps your family should go and ask your Congress critters what they were doing there in the first place. But then, of course, you went into panic mode. You started shooting into crowds, unarmed crowds. Yeah, that's what you did. And then the next day, you droned a guy who actually worked for you. Yeah, you did that. It is pathetic, and the world is seeing this. And then there's the one which is closer to home and about which I was actually briefed upon. The Niger ambush. Now, basically what happened here is you had Africa Command. Oh, shame, sies toch. And we do discuss Africa Command in this book substantially. And if you have any sympathy to the US, you'll hang your head in shame and bring the boys home. Well, let me rather call them men because they're not really boys. They are like, the one thing about them which stands out is their lack of faithfulness to their wives. Every one of them basically is just a male whore. It's so easy to compromise them. It's so easy to just get them to have sex somewhere with some girl and sometimes a young boy. It's pathetic to witness. And even with themselves, by the way, you find a fair amount of homosexuality with them as well, lesbians, you find that. It's your own choice. I don't care what you do. And if you want, if that thing brings pleasure to you, then touch your toes and be pleasured. That's fine with me. But I'll tell you this. In a conservative society like Sub-Saharan Africa, that doesn't go over well. It does not go over well. And because your CIA is so pathetic that they don't even have spy networks there, because they run on what the locals tell them, the local agencies, who is actually loyal to who? What do I get? China. And if you're there in Sahel, in that part, who are they loyal to? France. No, they chase France out. What about Germany? The ones with Tiger 2 attack helicopter can't even fly there because it's too warm. And their rifles don't work there because it's what do I hear? It's too warm. Yes. They chase Germany out too. So who say now? Russia. Yeah, that's it. Russia, the Wagner group. And Russia, way now. That's so whatever information and intelligence you get from the local agencies are actually working for good. Yeah, that's right. China and Russia. You don't get that. And anyway, so they went out on a patrol with their trained groups, and they were hunting these terrorists, and they got ambushed, and the people ran away, and the Green Berets were basically isolated. They fought till the end. We have to give him that. They were fighting till the end. There's one, I believe, who tried to surrender, but he was murdered anyway. Their weapons were taken, the uniforms were taken. I'm not going to explain more because I don't want their families to know what actually happened that day. It was gruesome. And then people, of course, all exploded like, oh, where's Niger? Why are we there? Yeah, good question. Why the flip were you there? And where is Niger, mate? Do you know where it is? Your senators don't know. I know you don't have geography at school, or so I'm told, and that you can only read at the level of what we call a standard 6 child. In other words, your first year in high school, in our junior high, I think people call it. That's your reading capacity of a 14-year-old child. Yeah. Which means you think like a 14-year-old child. Which explains a lot of things to me, actually. And then you have a few of you, which is really 2-3%, who can actually read and write above that level, where we are, who are postgraduate, people. We have postgraduate degrees, and we can read and write, and we can argue, and we can definitely understand things. That's the rest of the world. That ain't you. Now, does that make you stupid? Yeah, it makes you stupid. But my friend, why? Why? Because you're not stupid by nature. You were not born stupid. This is your system. And where does your system come from? Your political masters. And who do they bow to? What do I hear? Rome. Yes, because you're a second beast. And then through the UN, of course, the school system of them, it comes from a Jesuit, by the way, is implemented in the rest of the world. Why? Because I want you to be stupid. It's like in the Middle Ages. You have a stupid people, and then you have aristocracy, them. And you then have a priesthood, and you have those people who are sort of learned, and they control you. Yeah. Can you see where this is going? Yeah, they control you. Then they keep you busy on the Sabbath day, which is the fourth commandment of God. Keep my Sabbath day holy. Remember my Sabbath day, which is from Friday night till Saturday night. But what happens on a Saturday? Let me think. Oh, it's sporting days. Yeah, like in the old days, like a Colosseum, in the old days when Christians were burnt. Yeah, let's keep the masses happy. Let's go and look at a soccer match. Or let's go and look at a rugby match or a cricket match or a tennis game. And thereafter, man, let's get drunk. Let's get late. Let's have a braai, a barbecue. And we're going to eat a lot of meat. So we're even more stupid than what we were. And then we drink, and we lose all our inhibitions. We never had many to begin with. So you just pick up this girl, and she's also looking for a good time. And yeah. There, I've described the modern West for you. What are you supposed to do on the Sabbath day? Be with God. Be with God. Be still. Go to church. That's what the Bible says. Rid of evil. And many of you now will say to me, oh, that stopped at the cross. No. There were 2 laws. One ceremonial. Yes, I don't need to cut your little prick anymore. I don't have to, remove certain parts of it because that stopped. There's no need to do that anymore. There's no need to cut the throat of a lamb. You can go to God directly now and speak to Him. Yeah, you can do that. The ceremonial law stopped in it at the cross because the sacrifice was made. The final one, the last one. But then came the Catholic Church, and they said, as our mark of authority, as our mark of authority, we're going to move a Sabbath day of God. Yeah, we, the church, we above God. I actually say that. Blasphemous. Yeah, we got to move us to Sunday because you know what? Jesus arose on that day. But in fact, it was the day of the sun god. Why do you think we call it Sun Day? Sondag. Why? Did you ever think of it? The Bible don't talk about Sunday, Friday, Saturday. It talks about day 1, day 2, day 3. Then it goes on, and then there's a day 7. Who changed the time? Who tried to change time? Who was it? Who was it? Was it perhaps a Pope Gregorius? Which one? You know, in the old days, when Jesus was on earth, when did the new day start? When the sun set. Yeah, that's when the new day started. And who said, no, we must do it now differently. We have to do it to at midnight. Who was that? Is that biblical? No, of course not. Of course not. Anyway, point I'm trying to make to you here is, once again, there's things happening in the background where people, normal people like you and me, are being played. And we are then doing the will of the evil ones, of the satanic orders. You don't even know it. That's why you need to read these books and perhaps do more research. Do more research. And if you want to know to do more research, I'll leave a link for you here. Go and read or listen to a series on Total Onslaught by Professor Dr. Walter White. Will open your eyes. If you're Afrikaans speaking, then go and listen to Ernie Rex, who used to be a dominee. Listen to him when he talks about the Bible and Bible alleen. Gee my die Bible. I'll leave the links for you. I don't make these things up. So anyway, so we're talking about the Niger ambush and how it fits into the bigger picture of creating instability and chaos, which is, of course, exactly what the Hegelian dialectic wants. It comes down to order. You get order from chaos, ordo op chaos. That's another Jesuit thing. That's where it comes down. Guys, you need this information. You need to understand what's happening to you, because war, and this is what's happening, is a war. He's not going to leave you in isolation. He's not going to say, it's okay, don't worry, I'll just go underground. It will wash over. No, it's not going to wash over you. It's not. You have to make a stand. You can't be lukewarm. You're either for or you're against. There's no other way. You make your choices in life. And then in chapter 4, we talk about something which many of you will remember, the Skripal poisoning. Now, the Skripal poisoning is extremely interesting, because here you have a former Russian intelligence officer who got recruited by the West. He got caught and he went to jail, and he was released from jail. And he was then traded, I think, to the UK. And there he lived sort of on a cover. He was not murdered in jail. It's very important to remember that. And let me say to you that in the 1990s, when he was probably recruited, it was the easiest thing in the world to recruit a Russian intelligence officer, because they were not getting paid. The country has gone to hell, to drain, deliberately, because people like Yeltsin was listening actually to the West in his idiocy. He was thinking that they were actually trying to assist. No, they were trying to break you. They were trying to kill you. It came out now. Everybody knows it now. They've woken up to it. Then came Putin. Who of course cannot be bribed. Yeah, and I know you people will say, oh, look at the Venezuela. Where did they find all those files? And suddenly they say that, oh, his name is also there on the people who took bribes. And no one talked about the Western leaders whose names are also there, especially in the UK, especially those who live in the city of London. Yeah. And I haven't seen the evidence, by the way, of Putin's files. I've seen the evidence of the West. Fascinating. Very fascinating. But the fact is, he turned that country around. He turned it around. And you either admire the man or you hate the man. It doesn't matter. The fact is, Skripal arrived there in the UK, and so did his daughter. And the next moment we had to find out that he's got poisoned. Yeah, this is attempted murder. And it just so happens. Now I'm sarcastic. It just so happens. What's the chances? It's like fuck off. It's like 1 in 10 billion. What? There's a greater chance of you actually winning the lottery. Now, let me explain it to you. There's a greater chance, statistically, that I blow up. I take some C4 or Semtex, which I actually prefer, and I put it against a tree trunk, and I blow that tree up, and it splits into different pieces, and it forms like a cabin, a wooden cabin there in the air. It comes down with a foundation and working plumbing. That's the chances of Skripal poisoning being actually attempted. It is like zero, it doesn't exist. The guy probably got some of it in, and there just happens to be the chief nurse of a British army, just walking past and seeing them, and immediately recognizing what's wrong with him and his daughter, and they've been poisoned. Yeah, these horrible Russians, they came to poison these people. But they even identified two of them who later went up on RT and explained why they were there. I listened to that as well. And we go into great details about this poisoning because it just happened to be very close to where the UK's poison labs, or where they do these experiments on Novichok and things like that. It's just very close by, and it just happened to be close to that. And then the question, of course, comes: where did the Novichok come from? Because it's such a wonderful name. It must be from Russia. It's the Soviet Union. Yeah, it's them, it's them. Except that every single Western military, which is fairly advanced in their own eyes anyway, all of them can make Novichok. It's nothing to it. Nothing. Even South Africa can make Novichok if we wanted to. Don't know today, but in the old days, definitely, yeah, can do it. How do I know this? I spoke to 7 medical battalion people, and they confirmed that to me. If we wanted to make that, we could have. So anyway, so the question is now, of course, was that these horrible Russians, that they decided they're going to murder their own defector, this guy who they already caught, who already was sentenced, who already served his sentence, and then was voluntarily released or traded for somebody else, and now suddenly they want to murder him. And they can't even do it properly. Oh, these Russians must be pathetic, really. Yeah. They don't have a record of killing people outside their own country. I mean, it's not that they cannot do this. I mean, it's just look at the 1970s, and we do look at it in the book. And so we fell to this, and it became a major propaganda thing. And suddenly, this Theresa May was shame. She jumps up and she's like, we've got all the evidence. Oh, we haven't seen all the evidence. We've seen no evidence, actually, madam. We've seen no evidence. We've seen your word. Your word means nothing to me. You're a politician, man. You're a third brigade. Why would your word mean anything to me? And then it seems that Russia started demanding, okay, well, this guy's still a Russian citizen. Hand him over. We want to talk to him. We want to see if he's okay. Never happened. No. And his daughter disappeared. They probably live in New Zealand. Or Australia. Last I heard, actually, Australia. Fascinating what happened there. And so we went into great detail about the Skripal poisoning, which was March 2018. Of course, the whole world reacted. Suddenly, hundreds of Russian diplomats were just thrown out of countries. Yeah, you can see now, looking back, you can see where this was going. It was building up to this evil country. It's the same thing they did with Saddam Hussein. It's the same thing they did with Ayatollah Khomeini. It's the same that they did with Libya's leader, Gaddafi. They start building this guy up. He is evil. He is Hitler himself. He's Satan himself. For the goodness of mankind, somebody's got to kill this guy. In a lesser way, they're doing it with Donald Trump as well. They're trying to get him killed. There's no doubt about it. But, yeah, you're looking back, you see the patterns. And that's what this book is about, guys. It's to show you the pattern. You have to see the patterns and look further and say, wow, is this happening again? Why is this happening? Okay, there's going to be some kind of attack in the future. And let's do a false flag. Yeah, they were quite good at that, actually. And then, false flags, Syria. I think 2017, where this People got chemical poison, apparently. But when you put the sound down and you look at the videos, you see that people are startled. They're not in medical emergency mode at all. They just, what the hell's these people doing? They storm India, these ISIS terrorists and Al Qaeda people who now all live in Canada. Yes, you imported them, yeah, you idiots. We're going to attack you. Some states we're going to attack you. Yeah, I'm talking about these some so-called rescue people. Yeah, MI6 operation. Yes. The MI6 guy in charge there actually committed suicide. Yeah, why? Money was stolen. That's why he was getting caught out. Yeah. Perhaps he had a conscience. I don't know. Interesting. But anyway, so those were false flag operations. And what did Donald J. Trump do? Launch cruise missile attacks on Syria. What did the Russians do? Down most of his flipping cruise missiles. And then they captured two. Yeah, they captured them. It's in my book. Why do you think these cruise missiles in the Ukraine war is not effective? Huh? Why? Because they captured your weapons. Yes, idiot. That's what happened. Yeah, clever, huh? Very clever. Anyway, that was a false flag as well. Oi, why the hell did the power go off? Well, the good news in Phuket is that if the power goes down, it doesn't stay down. It's not South Africa. But in monsoon, it happens, there might be 3 weeks, which falls on something, and then or sometimes they just do repair work, so they normally give warning, and then it goes off and on, and then you have to reset all the Wi-Fi's. But no problem, it's still good. Anyways, Skripal poisoning is so ridiculous. It was nothing but a false flag operation, in my eyes, and we go into great detail about it. And there's a lot of astonishing things which comes out. Now, of course, guys, this is all open source intelligence. I'm not part of a great game anymore. I don't receive special information, but I do have people speaking to me, not through WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal, but they do speak to me privately sometimes, and we would, find out a few things which is very, very interesting, because everything goes together. If you think that MI6 is operating alone, on their own, no. Since 1945, 46, when they started in Albania, Kim Philby was involved there. They were actually the begging ones. They would beg the US for money, and then from there on, the US would supply them, and they would do combined operations. They would use their so-called prestige, and they would then work all together. They all work together, it's true. But there is one intelligence agency in the Vatican, the Jesuit order, who's better than all of them. Funny thing that. Anyway, chapter 5, we look at the Khashoggi murder, Jamal Khashoggi. Now, that's very, very fascinating as well, because Khashoggi actually has a link to South Africa, and he has it through his uncle, I believe, or family member, who was a weapon supplier to the old South Africa, apparently. And so we reveal that link also. This guy, Khashoggi, his sailing yacht used to belong to Donald Trump, or did belong to Donald Trump after him, or something like that. And it's the same sailing yacht which is used in the last Sean Connery James Bond movie. For Your Eyes Only, I think it was. I'm not too sure. But it's the same ship which is using there, the same yacht. Anyway, it came out that this Khashoggi is a Saudi national and also a US citizen, which people forget these days. He had to renew his passport or something, so he had to go to a Saudi embassy. So he went to one. He was overcome there. He was kidnapped, basically. He was killed, murdered, cut into many pieces. And then his body, I think, was smuggled out through diplomatic channels. Now, that type of barbarity is not uncommon in the Middle East, and especially not in a country like Saudi, which is the major. That is the terrorist supporting country, not Iran. No. Iran is mostly Shia. They don't like Al Qaeda and ISIS terrorists at all because of religious reasons. These Al Qaeda and ISIS and the jihadis, which you in the West know has committed Twin Tower attacks and has killed your soldiers, people, journalists, they're all Sunni. And they're all supported by who? Yeah, Saudi money, which is supporting them. That's why the GMZ books are not welcome. They're actually banned in Saudi Arabia, as far as I know, as far as I was told. Actually, they banned right across the Middle East. You have to wonder why, huh? You have to wonder why. Yet, which is the country which Donald J. Trump always went to first? Always. Which one is it? Saudi. Oh, yeah. Then he always comes back and he says, oh, we sold so many weapons. Yeah, but your weapons is shite. Doesn't work. We saw that in Ukraine, I warned you. And they buy it. Basically, they're just buying you. It's easy. It's like APEC, I suppose. You're just flashing out money in front of a US politician or a Western one. Yeah, guess what? Yeah. You know, you will touch his toes, man, and do whatever you want. So anyway, we look at the Khashoggi murder, and it's very shocking how it came out, especially the cover-ups. That's all I was focusing on. Is we looked at the cover-ups. We looked at how it went from denying it completely. American playbook never happened, never. But then, it might have happened, and then something like, yeah, it did happen, but these were rogue people, it shouldn't. And then, it did happen, but we will do an investigation. Hello, Israel Army. We will do an investigation and you never hear from it again. Other guys were actually found guilty, get a little slap on the wrist and please don't do that again. Wink. You know what I mean? It's exactly how we do it. Read Voices, War Crimes USA, and you will find out how they actually cover. Used exactly the same pattern. Again, guys, this is about patterns. And the more patterns there are, the more you can say this is how they do it. And hopefully you'll be able to recognize it because, as I say, there's no such thing as neutrality. This is evil. This is satanic. And it's going to come to you. It's going to come after you. Did the Bible not say that Satan is like a roaring lion? Have you ever seen a roaring lion? Can you actually ignore a roaring lion? Huh? No, man. Gee, have you seen a lion? It's a massively big animal, and if you see the roaring, and it looks quite angry, man, you know it's there. So don't let them at Hollywood. They like to portray Satan as this creature with goat horns and all sorts of things. But in fact, the people he used on Earth might actually not look like that. In fact, they never do. Okay, right. So Khashoggi, we talk about him at length. Once again, to show to you how the West, how they don't mind. They don't actually mind if certain countries commit these type of crimes. One of them is Saudi, who also crucify people, by the way. Yeah. And even though they know better. I mean, in 2015, Trump wrote a book, and he called Saudi out. He said they are the major terrorist sponsoring country in the world, which they are. He also said that they are against gays and lesbians and flock them to death. Yeah, all these things happen. And then suddenly you see them dancing there with each other. Yeah. There's no morals, It's so easy to bribe people these days. It's no godliness. It doesn't exist. And then we look at something which I actually find very interesting, and that's a Cornwallis confession. Now, most of you would never have heard about the Cornwallis confession or the compromise of Arranches, which is extremely important. Simply because something happened at the Battle of Yorktown. Now, Yorktown was, I think, one of the last battles of the War of Independence, and it should never even have taken place, as far as I know, simply because the war was already over. I think King George, or whatever he was called, he sort of already gave up. And since he already gave up, it meant that there was no need for this actually to take place, this battle. But it did take place, and Americans did win. And there was actually an English general called Cornwallis. And he made an interesting speech. He said something very interesting afterwards when they were talking there to Washington. Now, General Washington, later the first president, of course, was what was he? 53-degree Freemason, yeah. If not 53-degree, I'm not sure it actually existed in those days, it came later. But he was a very high-ranking Freemason. So were all of them. And so they were part of creating the US to become the second beast of the Bible. Don't believe me? Read Masamole 26, Codename Masamole 26, where I explain to you about Ricky, the Jesuit general, and how they created the US. I use that word create on purpose. It was done. But let's see what happened at Cornwallis, what Cornwallis actually said. There was a guy called Jonathan Williams, and he wrote a book called Legions of Satan. And this thing was published in 1781. Now, a lot of people say that book didn't actually exist. It's just a figment of imagination, that it's a hoax. But no, there are actually copies of a book which still exist. And in it, he claimed that this Cornwallis, this General Cornwallis talking to General Washington, he said that the Holy War will now begin on America. This is a newly created America. It wasn't even recognized as such. That would come only in 1798 when the second beast came up and the first beast was actually got a mortal wound. The 1260-day prophecy in the Bible, which I discuss in Oath of Evil as well as other books. So I'm not going to reveal it here. But anyway, so what it basically said is that the Holy War is going to start on America, and when it's ended, America will be supposedly the citadel of freedom, but the millions will unknowingly be loyal subjects of the crown. What did he mean by that? And he went further and he said, your churches will be used to teach the Jews religion, and in less than 200 years, the whole nation will be working for divine world government. Okay. That government that they believe to be divine will be the British Empire. Well, that's interesting. All religions will be permitted with Judaism without even being noticed by the masses, and they will all be under the invisible, all-seeing eye of a grand architect of Freemasonry. Now, remember, both of these men were probably high-ranking Freemasons. We know Washington himself was. So why did this General Cornwallis then say that you are going to be subjected to the British government, the British Empire, and you wouldn't even know about it? Why? What happened there? There's something strange here, because the British Empire didn't really exist then. It came a little bit later. Yeah, it was in the beginning, it was there, but not as great as it became 100 years later, when it was at its peak. You know, where they said the sun will never set on the British Empire. And some woods in London or someplace said, yeah, that's because you can't trust the Brits. If the sun sets on it, they will do even worse. Now, guys, this is fascinating because this goes back to Shakespeare, who was Catholic in disguise. He was not Protestant. You just look at his plays, and you look how he was introduced in virtually every school these days. Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? Yeah. Read Oath of Evil. I explained that to you. And I'll explain to you where Shakespeare, what did we call him in Afrikaans? Willem Wikkelspies or something. Where he comes from. And why is all these plays always in schools? Is it because it makes you smarter, you know? You're like smart now, you can quote Shakespeare. Yeah, well, there's perhaps something in the plays which is highly violently against Protestantism, perhaps. What's the chances? 100%. But you'll have to read Oath of Evil, but I do describe it slightly in this book as well. Anyway, what happened here is there's a priest called Thomas Becket, a Catholic priest, because at that stage, England was still totally Catholic. And in 1163 was Thomas Becket. He actually flew to France and then he came back because he had a fight going on with Henry II. Now there is a saying that who will rid me of this turbulent priest? Shakespeare mentioned it, but it's historical. It's actually correct. Of this turbulent priest, I actually say. And the king was saying that because this Thomas Becket was just, trying to influence the will of Rome onto his throne. In other words, what he was saying is that the priests are above the local laws. Yeah, fascinating, because what happens when the coalition forces or the Western NATO forces actually attack a country and occupy it, like Iraq or Afghanistan, even Germany? What do I hear? Are they subjected to the local laws? No, they can go and rape and kill and murder whatever they want. And the local police can't arrest them. No, can't. No. They will deal with them. The military will deal with them themselves. Yeah, they'll put them a slap on the wrist and nothing further will happen. Yeah, fascinating where these things come from. And that's what Thomas Becket was actually insisting upon, that the priesthood only reports to Rome and nothing but Rome, and screw the rest. End of story. So the king was like, no, that's not how it works. We've got laws in this country. But anyway, so he made this comment. He says, who will rid me of this turbulent priest? And actually 4 knights, William de Tracy, Reginald Fitzgerald, Hugh de Morval, and Richard Le Breton, or Brito. They went to Canterbury to actually arrest this Archbishop Becket. And they killed him. And most historians will actually say by accident. He wasn't really, they weren't going there to kill him, but when they got the chance, he died. And then they robbed the church. And so, so basically what happened is Becket was saying to him, he's not subjected to the king's law. He cannot be arrested because he's what do I hear? Catholic priest. He's above the law. And so they tried to arrest him and he died. And that's basically what happened. A fight broke out. So anyway, there were major consequences for this. I mean, Thomas Becket then became saint in 1173. He's a martyr to this day to the Vatican. And the Pope reacted by sentencing the 4 knights to visit the holy places bare feet, had to walk bare feet. And in hair shirts, which really itches, made of horse hair. And they have to live alone for the rest of their lives on the Black Mountain near Antioch. And they must spend their times there in prayer and lamentation. And they also had to fight the Crusades for 14 years. Yeah, that's beneficial. That's a nice person, these popes. They're great people, really. They're very humane. No, they're not. They're not pieces of shite. They're the Antichrist. And if I shock you, well, I don't care, man. It's a Protestant view, and you need to hear it. Even this hero of yours, what John Paul II, yeah. You know what he said about heretics? Do you know what's a heretic? Heretic is somebody who thinks for himself. In other words, if you can read the Bible, yeah, you can read the Bible and you can look at it and think to yourself, well, this is perhaps what God wants, which is not what the church wants, because the church doesn't believe in the Bible. No, they believe in tradition. Why? Because they're above the Bible. Not me saying so, they saying so. And even this guy said, no, heretics should be killed. Yeah, they must be murdered. Yeah, that's your hero, huh? That's the place where Donald Trump was on his knees, there in Washington. Yeah, praying there to idols. What does the Bible say about idols in the church? Yeah, just wondering. Anyway, so they also, of course, lost all their possessions, their family now impoverished. And immediately, they actually complied. They complied to this. And apparently their bodies are buried in Jerusalem at the door of the temple. It's a temple around church built on the site of the Temple of Solomon. And it became a tradition then for the Knights Templar to bury their assassins under that same entrance at Al-Aqsa Mosque, which there is today. Very fascinating, this Knights of Templar, because Knights of Templar still exist, in case you don't know. They were disbanded. Why? Because the initiation ceremonies would be something like homosexual sex on a cross. Yeah, they were doing that. And if you read Oath of Evil, you will see how the satanic cult, which they were part of, actually moved through the ages, and their things were being transferred to the Knights of Malta, I think, or somebody. They just moved it over. So yeah, they stopped existing, but they still exist, and now today they exist actually as the Knights Templar. Now, this is fascinating too, because if you find out how many of the Western politicians and others, all of them are Knights of Malta, all of them are Knights of Templar. Yeah, interesting. And you'll also know that it was on Friday the 13th when Israel attacked, I believe, Iran in June, I think, and to destroy the nuclear program, which doesn't exist. And then the US came and assisted them after arranging with the Iranians that they can go and bomb empty places, which they then did. And then the Iranians struck back at an empty airbase. You see what bullshit which is going on here. Man, this is just shite. And Friday the 13th, which is seen as an unlucky day in Western culture. You know why? Let me tell you why. It's in the books. Because the last head of a Knights Templar was actually executed on Friday the 13th. There's some confusion about it. Some say no, it was a week later. But most versions actually do that. It's the Mollerley or something like that, his name. Always forget it because he's unimportant to me. In fact, it wasn't a day of bad luck, it was a day of great good luck, as far as I'm concerned. The evil thing. All these secret organizations are evil. They're all part of a new world order, by the way. But anyway, so this wasn't the end of it, because this king now had to be punished with Henry II. And they had to stop this rebellion which was coming in England. Now, England for a time after this, long after this, was actually the Protestant nation. As much as we dislike the English on purpose for the camps and all their crimes and what they became today again, they were the ones who actually told the Catholics to take a hike. And they got away with it. And for a long time they spread the word of God. There's no doubt about it. They did fantastically well for the Protestantism cause. But then, of course, they watered it down now so much that there is no difference between the Church of England and the Catholic Church. They went back to the same ceremonies, sun god worship. Everything is there. I reveal it in the books. But let's talk about what happened then with Henry II, because he now has to be punished. Now, it's interesting because it became known as the Compromise of Francis. Now, if you search that on Google, and I did, you get about 19,000 results, which means nothing. What does that mean? It's buried. It's buried in history. Why? Why is it buried in history? But if you search for Henry II or you search for Thomas Becket, the priest, then you get millions of views. Yeah, millions. So very definitely the search engines are boosting one thing and they're suppressing another thing. Bingo, guys. No. Do you hear the alarm bells going off? It not well should. If it doesn't, there's something wrong with you. You should really now start thinking why. What's going on? Let me tell you what's going on, because this happened at Florentius Cathedral on 21st of May, 1172. Basically what happened is this king, Henry II, he actually arrived there to give penance. In other words, to go and say he's sorry. So he arrived there bare feet and he had to walk. He was forced to kneel down. He was forced to kiss their feet. And then these priests, these Catholic priests, they got whips out, like Shamboko. And they murdered him. They shamboked him and they whipped him until an inch of his life. Imagine this. Here's the King of England. And here's a bunch of Catholic priests And they make him kneel down, crawl around, whip the hell out of him, kick him, humiliate him. But yeah, that's what they did. They thrashed him. That's the word that they use. They say there's a report of this. There's a letter which was written to the Pope reporting, and they say that it's Old English. They say that that's now King Henry II, he put off his shoes and stockings. Otherwise, he went barefoot. And went barefoot to the Beckett's tomb. We had to, Beckett was the one who was murdered by the knights because his king dared to ask, who will rid me of this priest. And when he came there, his feet was bleeding by this time. He came there, every monk in the cloister whipped the king's back with a rod. Actually, it was whips. It's just amazing. There's actually engravings of a flogging of King Henry II, but that wasn't the worst thing which happened that day, because they also made him to sign the British crown over. Yes, that's what they did. It was a compromise of the inches. And the Jesuit histories will tell you this is the reconciliation of Henry II of England with the Catholic Church after the Becket controversy of 1163, which culminated in the murder of 1170 of Thomas Becket. There you go. That's all they say about it. But basically what happened there was the English crown was being signed over to the papacy. Now you may say to me, so what? But the papacy, the Antichrist, I think they come out. Now can you see where General Cornwallis was saying the British Empire is going to control you? Who controls the British Empire? Huh? Who controls them? Why? Tell me why. You people who are skeptical, you people who's looking at me now with big eyes and saying to me, Chris, sure. Tell me why. Tell me something. When you see the Queen of England, and I suppose the King as well, and the Princess and whatever, royal family, when you see them in the presence of a Pope, who's the Antichrist? You see them, what colors, what are they wearing? Pink, no, blue, no, white, no. The cross-dresser is wearing white. Yeah, he's wearing white. Of course, then there's the Black Pope as well, the Jesuit general, who's actually in charge. But then there's the White Pope. He's standing there, he's this kind little man. He does so much good. Oh, he's a voice of reason. Oh, we must help the poor. But the Bible talks about the poor as poor in spirit. Yeah. Of course you need to help if somebody physically suffers. Of course you need to help. Of course. But there's a second dimension to it as well, which people forget. Yeah, we do. And what colors are they wearing? Black. Yeah, black. And they even cover their hair. They have like a scarf. In one of the books I actually said to you that there's no real difference between the Catholic faith and Islam. It's the same religion. I remember how shocked I was when I was taught that the first time, when I was briefed. And I thought, this guy was fucking insane. What's wrong with him? They are totally not the same. Yeah, they're totally the same. Actually, when you look through it, it's the same religion. It's no different. And remember who copied who. Catholic system was there first. And then what happened? Muhammad. And then what happened? Yeah, Islam. Yeah. Then what happened? Two groups started fighting. And then what happened? Well, the Israelis came on the scene as well. Okay. Then what happened? Well, the Americans arrived. Yeah, okay. The second beast. Now, the first beast is involved. The second beast is involved. The dragon, that is Satan, is involved. Not calling the Israelis Satanists, right? Don't put words in my mouth. And then what happens? Oh, there's not a single Christian left in the Middle East. Most of them are gone now. How did that happen? By chance, yeah, of course. It just happened, No, it didn't. It didn't just happen. It was planned, and it played out. We can see it. We see the patterns. Do you even know that if some of these evangelist Christians actually go to Israel, they spit at the palm? Yeah, we've got videos of that. Yeah, not welcome. You know that the holy places, most of them are actually not in Israel. Palestine, yeah, but they'll soon be part of Israel, I'm sure. Greater Israel, quite sure about that. But whatever, you know what point I'm making is there's only one group which always being wiped out. Why is that? You know, all by chance, of course. But anyway, these royals and the other presidents, go look at them, every single one of them. What do they do? What do they do when they meet the Pope? Tell me. They wear black. Yes, they wear black. What is black? It's a color of slaves. In other words, it's a color of a lesser person. In other words, if I wear white, I'm pure, and if you wear black, well, you're lesser than me. Mm, mm. Yeah, interesting that the Jesuit general, the Black Pope, also wear black. But why? Because he's humble. He thinks he's humble. That's what he tries to portray, but in fact he's not. We know who's in charge. We can see through these things. And then what else happens? Besides the fact that you arrive now all dressed in black. Yeah. Even Elon Musk and his 10 children, or how many of his sons were there, got pictures. Yeah, so all dressed in black. So tell me, what happens then? Well, they bow down. Yes, they bow down. They kiss his ring. Tell me, who's in charge? Yeah, mate. Kiss my hand, mate. Kiss my ring. Kiss my ring. And you can be glad my hand's not upright. Kiss my ring. I'm your boss, man. I'm above you. You come here crawling to me dressed in black and you're like, kiss your ring. Who the hell do you think is in charge of me? Huh? And why would the Pope think he's above the Queen of England or the King of England? Why would he think that? Well, I just told you why. A compromise of Arranches. That is why. And that is the situation of today. And that will explain to you where Cornwallis comes from. And that will explain, all these things will come together for you, I hope. Because it's complex, guys. I've just summarized these things for you, and it's extremely, I take it. What I say to you is fantastical. I mean, a lot of you would sit here and think, of course, have you lost your mind? My advice to you is, my friends, go and read the book, go and study the book. Look at the notes I leave there for you. Look at the links I leave there for you. This is non-fiction. Go and do your own research. And then you're going to find out, yeah, I didn't just from socket or got it from the air or what happened to Muhammad. The Archangel Gabriel got hold of him and forced him to tell a story. No such things happened to me. No, I just researched it, was briefed many times by clever people smarter than me. I did a lot of research, and they all came together, and I see a picture, which I hope you can see, also. Why? Because I don't care, man, if you become part of a church I belong to, the Seventh-day Adventist. I don't care. Really, I couldn't care less. Do what you want, in the sense that this is freedom of choice. God doesn't want you to be forced into any church. He doesn't want you to force to love him. Doesn't want that at all. Gave you freedom of choice. But use your freedom of choice as long as you have it, so that you can protect yourself about what's coming. That is what intelligence is about, isn't it? Intelligence is to predict what is coming in the future so that you can defend yourself against it. And to do that, we need to look in the past, because the past is the future of today, by which I mean is the past always repeats. If you sit with people who you know is the second beast of the Bible, then you should expect these people to react like the second beast of the Bible, or per definition they cannot be the second beast of the Bible. That if they are like that, they're going to act like a Donald J. Trump, or a Joe Biden, or a Barack Obama, or a George Bush, both of them, daddy. we stood in the United Nations and talk about a new world order. Do you know that the Pope's talked about a new world order many times? 12 times at least in the last few years. Yeah, yeah. You know that? Mm. What about after this great snot? You know, this illness, which murdered my mom, other friends of mine as well. What about that? Very fascinating, that story, you know, because when they wanted to do what do they say? Build back better. But if you look at the Caesar code and you work it out in other codes, you can actually see this way they say triple B, BBB, 222 comes to 6. Yeah, there is something like 666 in the Bible, you know, I explained that. What is Trump doing currently with his new act? That one, the one with $1 trillion for the Department of Defense, which it ain't defensive at all. What is it? Big, beautiful, or what? Something like that. All starts with B. Beautiful, big, whatever. All starts with B. Same as Build Back Better. Same. Yeah, there you go. There you go. What happens when you see a guy, the foreign minister of some country, and he stands there with his glasses like this, and he talks all sorts of shite? You know what he's doing? He's saying to you, I'm a 33-degree Freemason, or I'm high ranking. See, this is one of my signs. I'm doing it like this. So don't matter what we say, you know what we will speak in private. Yeah. That's what's happening in the world. So I hope you enjoy this book, Intelligence Briefing. I don't think I have a copy here anymore. I think somebody came here to visit and I gave a copy away. Always laugh about it, and I have to go and buy it again. And you never hear from these people again. They never write a good review for you. They just grab the book and they run away, and you as the author have to be satisfied with just a thank you, which is okay, guys. I don't care. I don't need the money, actually. So, but the book is available on audio. It is available in the hardcover, softcover, as well as Kindle, all on Amazon. I will leave the links for you here. Thank you for listening to me. I wanted to go into great more detail in what I actually did, but it's useless. It's useless for me to even try to do it. It's a complex thing, and it's a long book, almost 400 pages, so there's thousands and thousands of pages on everything I said to you here. I just summarized it. And I hope what I summarized to you is so interesting to you that you're actually willing to do something and find out more. So that's it. God bless until we meet again, and may you have a wonderful new year.